Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 48 Now. I'm your digital host, Tatiana White, and I am joined today by Sarah Austin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. It's such a pleasure having you on here today, and I'm so excited to talk to you all about your journey.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. May is National Mental Health Awareness Month, and today we're spotlighting a remarkable young woman who's using her voice to raise awareness about invisible illnesses that affect mental health. Sarah Austin is a high school senior from Gunnersville, Alabama. She is the United States of America Teen Alabama 2025, the author of Crowned in Kindness, and the founder of Brave Minds Matter. Her advocacy work is deeply personal, and today she's here to share her story and inspire others to speak up and seek support. So, Sarah, for those who are just meeting you, can you introduce yourself and just share a little bit about your journey? What inspired you to start Brave Minds Matter?
Well, my name's Sarah Austin. I've recently just graduated high school, so that's always exciting. But getting through school hasn't always been easy. When I was younger, about 7 or 8-ish, maybe even six, I'm not sure which, but point is being young, I was diagnosed with PANDAS, which stands for Pediatric Autoimmune Neurological Disease Associated with Streptococcal Infections. So it was so hard to spot, and it took us about a year to find out because of it being so rare. It doesn't affect that many people. And it was crazy because my dad didn't know it existed. My dad is a doctor. And I know so many other doctors who didn't know it existed or simply just denied it because it's one of those things, it's more taboo. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's not as, prevalent. So I started Brave Minds Matter because I knew getting through my journey as a child, it was really hard because I had great allies and people around me, but it's hard to understand something if you don't have someone else who isn't also going through it. And I just wanted to be that for other people around me that were dealing with invisible illness.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, a lot of the time when people think of like diseases and stuff, they think it's something that you can always see. And so I think it's amazing that you have a platform where you're there supporting people who also have those like more invisible like illnesses that people don't see. And so how has it like impacted you on like a mental health aspect, and how are you trying to use your organization to help people with their mental health who are also going through either pandas or some other type of invisible disease?
Personally, my mental health has been great as of recently, and I feel more empowered and, true to myself. With this growing up, I didn't know why some of the things were going the way they were because some of my symptoms were so like you would have never guessed or put it together because a lot of it's umbrellaed under one big umbrella of pandas. So it has a lot of symptoms from other things, which made it very hard to diagnose. So that really affected my mental health at the time. But recently, since I'm more educated on the topic of that invisible illness and other invisible illnesses, I feel more confident in my mental health and how to deal with my mental health. And as far as helping others, I'll never completely walk a day in someone else's shoes, but I will always be the ally that's here to talk to them because I know how it felt to walk mine.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's always helpful, especially people that are teens or like younger that are around your age, and just knowing they're not alone. And how did
Yeah.
you go from like struggling with something so personal and like finally using your voice to publicly talk about it and advocate for others?
So recently, about a year ago, my best friend from ever since I was a kid had passed due to suicide. And that really, really hurt me because I just wish there was more I could have done. And I know how much I've struggled with my illnesses. So seeing that there was nothing I could do to help her at the time because I didn't even know it was going on. And she was so well masked, if I could say that. Like, and I get that because I mask my symptoms sometimes and people would have never guessed. And I just want to be the person that's there to reach out before it's too late because you don't always see things. And my friend Summer made me realize you need to start now before it's too late because in my case, it was too late. And I don't want anyone to ever have to deal with that again because it broke my heart. And I know it broke the family's heart too. And that was my first best friend ever.
Yes, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And I think it's beautiful that in their honor, you're creating something like this and speaking out on mental health. And I know you're probably saving so many other lives just being able to show them that you relate to them in some way. Um,
Yeah.
and so, why do you think it's so important highlighting mental health, especially in young people? And what do you wish more people kind of understood about what teens are going through, especially like kind of in today's time and more modern times?
I feel like it's extremely important to highlight mental health in younger people and all people, but especially younger people, is because I feel like a lot of the older demographics were told by their parents, you know, if you're crying, I'm going to give you a reason to cry. Or, you know, oh, you can't have that. It's all in your head. Well, yeah, it's all in your head. It's mental health. You can't physically see it, but you don't have to physically see it. I don't have to physically see air to know it exists. And I feel like now with younger generations, because they're more aware of it, they're more open to letting themselves feel it. But that also comes with the consequences of everything being more out there. And apparently, you have a lot of, older demographics being like, oh, well, this came out of nowhere. It didn't necessarily come out of nowhere. People just felt comfortable enough to actually not suppress their symptoms as much. And I think it's important we bring awareness to that. That way, not only the younger demographic feels seen, but the older demographics know that it's okay and they don't have to suppress things anymore because there are resources and people out there.
Yes, absolutely. I always say I feel like, we learn from older people, but I think sometimes they can learn from the younger crowd too. So,
I feel like everybody can learn from everybody, really.
yes, absolutely. And you're also an author, which is amazing, being a senior that just graduated high school. That's awesome. And so you're the author of Crowned in Kindness. So can you tell us
Mhm.
like what that book is about and what you hope readers take away from it?
So personally, that book was about a lot of things to me, but the overarching theme of the whole thing was being crowned in kindness. Your crown isn't always something you wear on your head, like this one. Sometimes it's what you have in your heart. Your heart will always glow bigger than any jewel you have on any crown. But, most of all, kindness is something that can save a person's day. And I know it sounds simple and kind of cheesy, but there's so many days I know I was going through it, and I've had my own struggles with anxiety and depression where I it would have made my day to have someone be kind to me that day. And I want to be that for other people. And it also highlights invisible illness in the book and me overcoming that and pageants being a big empowering thing for me. So,
Yes, and I think it's amazing that you cover so many different topics. I feel like it gives you a better range of people that you can reach. So that's awesome. And how has your platform, as well, being in the pageants in the United States of America Teen Alabama 2025, how has that helped amplify your message? And how do you kind of balance all of those roles as well, like the student, advocate, author, title holder? How do you balance all of it?
it's been a job, but I think a lot of balance comes from your passion. If you care about something enough, you'll make it work. I mean, just like in relationships, when people say if he wanted to, he would. If she wanted to, she'd do it. And I did it because I was passionate about it and I cared. So that was something that meant a lot to me. And even though it's hard to balance, to me, it's something that's worth balancing.
Yes, yeah, I definitely agree. And I think you do a well job at balancing it, being an author, being a title holder, all of those things. I think it's amazing and preparing you for even more journeys in your life. And so, can you tell us a little more about what your overall mission is, especially now that you've graduated high school, where you want to see Brave Minds Matter go, and what kind of impact are you aiming to have with this organization?
I want Brave Minds Matter to not just be a thing for the people with invisible illnesses, even though that's why I created it mostly for invisible illnesses. I know not everybody has an invisible illness, but I will tell you, everybody has an invisible issue and everybody's felt different at some point. And yes, we all are different in some ways or another, but that isn't what makes us who we are. We're all humans, and at the end of the day, we all have the same skin, same bones, and we all have a heart, we all have a soul. And I want people to feel cared about and feel loved because everybody deserves that. And not everybody could get that, but I wish everybody could see it at least once.
Yes, that was so beautifully said, and I definitely agree. And when you're having a tough day, what helps you cope, and what advice do you have for other teens or families who may be facing some mental health challenges or anything? What advice would you give them?
I'd say, like, for me, what helps me on my rough days, I really like talking with the people around me if I trust them. Obviously, if you don't trust someone, don't go up to them with, a whole bunch of issues because that could backfire. But if you don't have anyone, you specifically trust at this moment, it's always really helpful to journal and write out your feelings. Because when you're like harboring that deep inside you, it not only like comes out in your anger and your symptoms and your head, but physically you'll get anxious, you'll get shaky. When you let stuff bubble up like that, it'll eventually explode if you keep letting it build and build and build and build. And as far as advice for people, I would say take it one day at a time. And I know that's like so cliche and always said by so many people, but like it's so true. You know, you may not know what comes in 5 months, you may not know what comes in 2 days, but at least for now, you can live in now and know that you're doing the best you can. And also, if someone had lived every second of your life and it being your life, they'd be in the exact same place you were. So nobody's doing better than anyone else. We're all here and there's abundance in the world and it doesn't run out. You can have that too. You just have to believe in yourself.
Yes, I love it. And you talked about in the beginning about how you had people to talk to and like always having someone that you that people should be able to confide in. And so, what role has your family or school or just local community, anyone played in your mental health journey?
I'd say I have so many people that have played roles in my mental health journey, but I'd say some of the biggest ones were my parents played a big role because they have always been there when I needed them and needed to talk. And my friends. Friends are such a good support system. I understand not everybody has a good relationship with their parents, and that's, difficult for everybody, but there's always people out there, whether that be your friends, your parents, your therapist, anyone, there's somebody out there. And if even if you can't see them now, you'll find them eventually and you'll have that person to talk to. There's always a reason to keep going.
Yes. And what's next for you after graduation? How do you plan to continue your advocacy going forward?
I think a big thing for me, bringing forth my advocacy after I've graduated and, making sure other people feel seen and brave minds matter still being an important thing to me. Obviously, I'll bring it through in the big things such as, like going to schools, going to readings, doing little appearances. That's always fun, but it's not just that. It's also like the everyday things too. Because if I were to do five big things really spread out, yes, they're big at the time, but it wasn't consistency. Consistency makes true progress. It's the things you're doing every day, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but it will build up. So,
Yes, and I completely agree with that sentiment. And so, if you could speak directly to someone who is going through pandas or any other invisible disease, or maybe they just feel misunderstood or not heard, what would you say to them?
wow, there's so much I could say and probably would say, but if I had to say a few words, I would say you may not understand it now, and you may not ever completely understand it, but that's okay. You don't have to understand it to know that you're worth being here and that you're valid in what you have. I may not even get what you have. Your mom may not, your friends may not, but that's okay. They don't have to. I don't have to get what you're going through to get that we're human and we all feel.
Yes, and that is something I feel like I always like say is that even though you may not completely understand what a person goes through, just even like sympathizing or empathizing with them, it makes all the difference.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and so you have a lot of wisdom to share. And so, how can other teens or people in general connect with you and support you, like through purchasing your book? Like, where can they find that? Things like that, social media.
My book is on Amazon currently. It's Crowned in Kindness. My social media for USOA is USOA Teen Alabama. And my email is sarahmadeline2007@gmail.com if anyone needs to personally reach out. And I would love to talk anytime. I love to talk to people, and I'll always be here. If you don't have a friend, I'll be that friend.
I love it. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything that we haven't touched on yet?
I wouldn't say there's anything I haven't talked about, but I would say with my best friend, like first best friend ever being the one who inspired me to start this whole journey, if I could say anything to her now, I would tell her I love her and there was always another reason to stay. And even though I can't see you again or can't make you come back, I miss you and I wish I could. So
Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I've enjoyed this whole entire conversation and just being able to share your story and for you being so open. And I hope you continue to push through and be an advocate for those around you.
thank you.
Yes. And thank you all for tuning into 48 Now. And Sarah is just a reminder that courage and compassion can be powerful tools for change, no matter what they're going through. And you don't have to go through anything alone. You can follow more of Sarah's work and journey and learn more about Brave Minds Matter on social media. And this Mental Health Awareness Month, let's continue to uplift the voices of those who are bravely sharing their stories and breaking the stigma around mental health. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.